going to create one of those nostalgic style looking videos with the bloom, the halation, and like a film look to it, but you didn't know where to start? Well, let me introduce you to today's sponsor, and that is going to be Dehancer. Dehancer reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing a video for them in exchange for their product. If you're going to create one of those cool, nostalgic feeling videos, you know, with the halation, the bloom, the film edit, all that kind of stuff, but you didn't know exactly where to start. Well, there's a few different ways to do that, but in today's video, we're going to talk about the plugin Dehancer. Dehancer reached out to me and asked if I'd do a quick review on their product, and one of the cool things about them was they actually asked me to give them any feedback on it, right? If I found anything negative, to have that feedback. And I thought, wow, that's great. Because a lot of times companies don't want to hear the negative feedback and don't want you to put that out there. But they're trying to make their product better by doing that. And if it gets thrown on the internet and some ideas are out there, they're gonna be like, all right, well, that's a good way we could improve it. And if you followed me for any amount of time on here or on Instagram, you know that I am a sucker for that film look, that vintage style, that nostalgic feeling. So we're gonna jump into it and talk about Dehancer and what it's for. Dehancer is just a plugin you can download to your computer. You can get it for DaVinci Resolve, you can get it for Lightroom, which is what I will be using it for today. Now, if you use any other products, Premiere Pro, Capture One, something like that, they also have it for that. So it will work on those. But for me, I will be using it specifically in Lightroom and in Resolve in this video. So let's dive into it. Okay, so I was wrong because I'm finishing this video in split Croatia, baby sleeping. So I'm outside doing the best I can with the natural light, and it is like 1 p.m. in the afternoon here. So it's a little rough. And we're gonna take this sunset video I have and just drag and drop it into our timeline. And yes, I am working outside even though it's hot, and you see how beautiful this sunset is. So what we're gonna do is just edit it to give it that vintage feel, you know? Right down here, you can see the color tab. So we're gonna click on that. It's gonna be usually towards the bottom below everything. So we're gonna drag it and drop it onto our file, right? And obviously I'm just doing this right off the bat. So immediately we notice the difference when we drop that on here. And that is because under the film tab, it's already enabled to have a film profile on there. So that's one thing I don't like about this app is, why is it already enabled? To me, you shouldn't have to go and disable it. It should just be a blank slate and you start from the beginning. So what we're gonna do is uncheck that box. We're gonna go to where it says input, and we're gonna find Rec 709. We have all these different ones in here we can choose from. I go to choose camera, vendor, we're gonna go down to Sony, and then we're just gonna go down to A7 IV, which is what I shot on, and find S-Log3, and they have S-Log3 Cine, they have S-Log2 if you wanna use that. And you can just change your exposure compensation, right? We have that Rec 709 image to get those colors back, right? And you have your tint compensation if you need it, defringe and all that, but see this where it says defringe enabled? All these tabs right here are gonna have this area enabled right here, this box. So you're gonna have to check or uncheck every single box for what you need. So that is really nice because there might be things you do want or you don't want, but make sure that that box is enabled before you do it, because you could touch all this stuff right here and it not change your image at all. So you could be going here and trying to find Kodak Portrait, right? And you could be hitting the push-pull EV and it's not gonna do anything until you hit enable. And then when you hit enable, then we start seeing the difference over here. So just keep that in mind. But we're gonna look at our film profiles, right? And we have all these different ones in here, right? Some that you may never use or some that you may love. I love using Eterna, and I love using Fuji 100, and then you have your Naturala 1600, which is another great one. And see, enable and then not enabled. And that's just the difference between. And then you just go to film developer right here, and this is just gonna have your contrast boost for the film, your gamma correction if you need a color separation, all those. But look, enable. You gotta hit that enable button, because if we don't hit it, now we see the difference, but if I don't have it on there, so make sure you do it so that way you can see it as you adjust accordingly. So then we go down here to print, and this is the one that I find interesting, right? Because you have these different ones. You can have linear, you can have the film log, right? Or you can have this print film, or you can have like a glossy paper finish to it, and you can see the difference, right? It's like what happens when you print an image, which to me is kind of cool, right? And you have like your targeted whites, your EV, you have all those different things you can do. And me, I like just going to straight linear, and like I said, you can just do this, enable, disable, and then go to color head, and then color head's the interesting one. Make sure you hit enable beforehand, because you're gonna be able to see how you can shift these colors if you need to get, you know, more magenta, more of a red to your image. You can kind of see how that's gonna be, but if it's not enabled and you're playing with those, you're not ever gonna see it. So just keep that in mind, right? Your shadow tones, your mid-tones, you can play with. All those different things are in here for you to do. And then obviously the one that we all look for, right? And that is gonna be film grain. And the thing that's interesting about this is, right, you have all these different ones you can use, right? So if you want to make it like an 8mm and have it enabled, and you can see what it's going to do over here, right? We can make that, and just look how that looks now. Just look how all that grain is through there. You get that film grain on your image. So that is really cool, right? There's all the different ones. You can do 35mm, you can do 65, so we can go to 35 where it's not going to be as heavy, and all those different things. And then obviously when it comes to film, what's the most important thing to get that vintage feel that people love? And that's going to be halation, right? So we're going to hit enable, and make sure you hit mask mode, because what mask mode is going to do is you're going to see how this screen turned black here, and all we got to do is hit amplify and go to, let's say we'll do Super 8. We go to amplify and we go all the way up, and you can see this right here, how it's getting that dark color a little bit. You see all that? Well, basically what that's going to be is the area that's going to be affected in the image, right? So now we're just going to hit mask mode and undo it, right? And you can see it. You can see how that red's pouncing off there. So just, obviously we disable it. It's going to be easier to see, right? And obviously there's all these different ones you can choose from. So if we go to Super 35 right here, enable, and then mask, you're going to see how there's not much there, right? If we amplify it all the way down, but if we go all the way up, we're going to see just a tad bit and where it's affecting that image. And then we just get rid of the mask mode, and bam, right there, it's there, right? It's hard to see, but you can you definitely can see it over here. So you can do all of that. And then we're gonna go to here to bloom. Bloom's another big one, right? Enable, mask. And I like doing it this way, so that way I can see what in the image it's affecting. You can see more of that water's getting affected right here. Or you can do custom, 8, mask, 90, and you can see where it's affecting just this part of the image right here. And then just hit mask mode and disable it, and then you have enable, and then right here you can see the difference and how it's getting that bloom off of that sun right here, and how it's affecting this part of the image as well. And then we're going to jump down to film damage. Film damage is a really interesting one. So if you liked how they filmed movies back in like the 1900s and all that, where you could kind of see it moving and almost like it looked like the grain was coming across because there was issues with the film, that's what this does. So you hit enable, and I'm going to crank this all the way up, right? And we're just going to see it across the screen. You can see all that jitteriness coming on there. That's film damage. It's just damage to the film, and it's going to give you that really cool look. So keep that in mind. That's another fun one that you could definitely use if you're going for more of a certain aesthetic for the kind of video or short you're doing. And then obviously you can make it so it's less, right? We can go to Super 35, amount jitter, and we're just going to crank that all the way up too. And you can see it. It's going to have a little bit of jitteriness to this, but obviously it's not going to be as bad with Super 35 as it is with Super 8, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. And then you have film breath, you have gate weave, overscan, you have all these other ones that you can definitely use. Vignetting, which is also important when it comes to getting that film look. You can monitor, you have output, you have all these different things, and then you have a LUT generator, so you can export it as a LUT. So if you like the way you did it and you want to add it to the rest of your images or anything like that, you can definitely export it. It's like a basic way of how you do it in video, but what if you wanted to do it in photos? Well, I'm glad I asked myself. So let's show you how to do that in Lightroom really quick. I'm going to show you how to use the plugin for Lightroom as well. So the first thing you want to do is make any light adjustments you want to first in Lightroom, right? So me, personally, I'm going to go here and hit enable profile corrections just for the lens, right? Because sometimes there's lens distortion or the barreling, anything that can mess with the image, and Lightroom can correct that. So then what we're going to do is right click on it, right? And we're going to hit edit in, and then edit in Dehancer Lightroom plugin. Super easy. Edit a copy, and you can choose the file format you want to use, whether that's a TIFF or JPEG or Photoshop, whatever it might be, and just hit edit in, and we're going to hit the edit button. And now right here is our film emulations. Make sure you hit this little tick up here and adjust it accordingly. So now we have our film profiles we can use, right? So now we can click on all of these over here and decide which one we want to use. And like I said, if you're me, I like using all these different ones, especially Eternal. That's just mine, but there's all these cool ones in here, you know. And one of the cool ones that I love using is the Instax, because Instax is just like a Fuji thing, and it's those little ones that you can take a photo with and it prints out. I love using one of those cameras for when I do portrait shoots or something like that, and this is just a fun one to kind of get that look on your image without having to take that camera with you, right? You pick the one you would want,
you're going to jump over here to your adjustment tab. And the one thing I will say is, you see how all these have these empty check boxes next to it? If you click on it, it'll go down, but you can't change that, right? In order to adjust that, you have to click on it. You see Super 35, 70, Super 16, all that. That's one thing I like about this as compared to the Dehancer plugin for Resolve, is that you actually have to click on that box in order to adjust it, whereas the other one, you can play with the adjustments, it just doesn't show up. To me, it'd be better if everything you had to click on it in order to move it. That's just my opinion. But we're gonna jump on to halation, right? And we can look at it and, you know, figure out which one works for us, or if we wanna use that at all. So maybe we wanna do more of a Super 8, and you can see how it hits that right down there, because we're going for more of a vintage look on this, right? And then maybe we go down here to bloom, and same thing, we enable Super 35, maybe we go to Super 8 again, and just see how that affects it, and just how that makes these pop even more, right? And now we're getting like Super 60s kind of feeling, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that's okay. And we're gonna go, you know, maybe we wanna add some grain to it. Maybe not too much, but maybe a little bit, or maybe you wanna add a lot. It doesn't matter, because it's your image. You can do whatever you want with it, because that's the great thing about photography. Right? Like I said at the beginning, Dehancer did reach out to me to ask if I would create this, but this is a great thing that I probably would have picked up anyway, just because this is the kind of look I go for in my images and in my videos. But this is a great thing that's gonna come out to a lot of y'all for, you know, if you're using the Pocket 3, the Action 4, or your iPhone, the app is fantastic as well, because you don't need a massive camera or a computer. You can just do it all from your phone. So that to me is also a great selling point if you're not looking to spend all the money on the actual desktop version of it or all the plugins, but you want to just be able to do everything from your phone, because that's how I do a lot of these, especially when I'm using my Pocket 3, is just straight from my phone, transfer it to the DJI app, and then straight into there, and then adjust accordingly. So that part is really cool. But if you did make it this far, drop a comment down below and just let me know if this is something you are interested in. Thanks for hanging out with me, and just let me know your thoughts on the film look, and if this is a style you want to go for, or if you're going to go a different route when it comes to editing that vintage look.